Hello and welcome to the second part of this Photoshop tutorial. Today I'm just going to show you a few extra little things that we can do with our project based on what we did in the first tutorial. So I'm just going to open the last project that I opened. So if you saved it, it should be in your recents, especially if you saved it to your Adobe account, so onto the your Creative Cloud account. Obviously, if you've saved it to your computer, you might have to find it from there. But you can just click it and open that up, and you can see that it's opened up our project here. So last time we learned how to cut out our images in terms of the background and different ways we can do that. We've also learned how to insert other images and put a background in and layer those up at certain orders. So I'm just going to show you a few extra things we can do. So first thing I'm going to show you is adding text. So to add text, you might have already seen it already, but you can see there's a big T there. I'm going to select that, and it'll give you a few options here to choose. But we're going to select the horizontal type tool here. Holding it down will obviously give you more options there, but horizontal type tool is the one we're going to use most. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to just create a text box here. And once I've done that, it'll put a load of random text in there already. So I'm just going to delete that by default, and then I'm going to put in the name of my film. So for now, I'm just going to call this film with the very original title that I've decided to come up with. And if I want to change the font size or colour, I can highlight that. And at the top here, I can change the font there to all the different fonts that I might want to change it to. I can change the colour here. I can change the size. If I drag that number, it makes it bigger and smaller. I can also do this on the right hand side here, as well as it gives me a few other little options too, but they're all at the top too as well, so it doesn't really matter too much. But once you're happy, you can select the tick box there, just as he did with the image, and that finalises that there. And I can move that around with the movement tool there if I want to. And if I want to change the text again, if I select the type tool again, I can actually select that and start typing next to it. Okay. So whilst I've got a few tools already selected here, I'm just going to show you a few other little tools that we might be able to use. So if I select my protagonist 2 image here, for example, I can actually make him a bit darker or lighter in certain areas by using the dodge and burn tool. So if you select the dodge tool, when you highlight over it anyway, it actually tells you what it does anyway, really. And we can make that a bit bigger up here. And you can see here, it lightens up certain areas of it. Don't forget, it has to be selected. If it's not working for you, you need to make sure it is selected first. So it does a very slight bit of exposure essentially to him. But if you set the burn tool, let's make that a bit bigger as well, as a bit bigger than that even, we can actually give him a bit of a darker shade if we wanted to. Obviously that might be a bit too much, but there might be certain shadows you might want to create. Let's make this a bit bigger even. That might give him a more rugged sort of look to him. It might be used to also help match the lighting in some cases. So let's do it quite a bit there, for example. Okay. Let's do a bit there. Now I'm going to show you one other little technique we could also use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually download another image, and I'm going to use the one of the overlays that I've got here. Now I'm going to just use this one first. So I'm going to download that, and I'm going to show that in the folder. Let's bring that into our image. That's quite a small file, so I'm going to expand this so it's a lot bigger, and we're going to make sure it covers the entire poster. Now you might be thinking, oh hang on, it's just going to be really pixelated. When I press tick, it actually makes it unpixelated, but it still might not be great. As you can see, it's still a bit blurred. However, this is not what it's going to look like, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some of the blending options here. So on the blending options panel, so if you select the image here, this is the blending options drop down menu here. So if I select this and then scroll through them, it actually blends that image in with whatever I've got on top of it. So to be honest, because I've got quite a light image at the top, it doesn't work brilliantly there, but it works a lot better at the bottom. But you can see I could have these little scratch marks kind of etched on top of the picture that I've got there. So maybe that's probably just about enough there for select lighten, and you can see that it brings in these scratch marks to give it an old-fashioned, maybe oldie sort of look to it. And I could bring that above the title if I wanted to, so it appears on the title too. But obviously it's totally up to you. But that might be a nice little effect. But that's really a nice idea of what you could do with the blending options. Alternatively, I've downloaded as well a screenshot from the film. I might maybe want to put this in somewhere, so let's try putting it in around here. I'm going to press tick on that. I'm going to use the eraser tool as a large file. Let's just make sure that's rasterized. So eraser tool, and you do it at a large size, and I'm going to make sure it's a bit bigger. Just fade it out a bit. And I could use the blending options for this as well. So you may want to see how that works. As you can see, it works quite nicely with some of the background image here, as well as where it gives it a much more ghostly sort of look to it. Maybe I might want to bring that up to around here. Now maybe I might want to bring this so it's the same colour as our image that's in the background. Now what I could do here is then select some of the adjustments to the image that we can do here. So if you go to image and adjustments, we can change some of the settings of some of the color settings up here. So I could select color hue and saturation, and bring the saturation down a bit, and that works quite nicely with that background. But let's do it for our actual protagonist here. I can change all sorts of different elements to this. So if I select curves, for example, I can give it a certain look to our image. Obviously this might depend on what you've got in your background, whether you want to match a certain tone. You could perhaps even change the colour balance, make it more yellow or more green, or whatever you want to do with it. Doesn't really work too much for this one because it looks alright before, but maybe you want to give it some sort of weird look to it. Maybe that might be something you might want to do with it. Press OK, and then it will apply that to that specific image. So in terms of layout and what we need to do here, it's looking quite good. I would also think about all the text that you might want to include. You might want a tagline here. So let's try "survive to be alive" or something like that. Something random. Obviously, I've done that, so it's a bit too big, the text there. So let's bring that down to a size that will fit. Oh dear. might want that at the top or something like that. I'm pretty sure that makes 0 sense, that tagline, but hey, well, some of them never do. You might want the cast name to be at the top, maybe the main actor to be at the top. You might want to put something else down here. You might want to put the cast and crew. You probably want to put your BBFC logo in there, maybe. So there's all sorts of things you can add to this. Once you're happy with your image or with your poster, what you're going to do is we need to save this or export this as an image file. So I'm going to go File, Export, and Export As. Export as a JPEG, and I'm going to so a JPEG is fine. I'm going to press export. All the settings are fine. I'm just going to choose where to save it. So if I save it to desktop, press save, and that'll export it to my desktop as a JPEG file. Okay, so that concludes the basics of Photoshop. There are other things we can do. For example, you can paint with a brush tool. It doesn't come in handy that much though. It's very specific in what you might use it for. You may want to use the clone stamp tool. So if you use the clone stamp tool, if you select a certain image and then hold Alt on your keyboard, you can select a certain area that you want to copy from. So if I click once whilst holding Alt and then copy here, it'll just duplicate that to somewhere else. It is often quite handy for covering up certain changes you might have made. So if you're trying to if you've removed something and you want to fill in a gap and you might want to just duplicate it from somewhere else, the clone stamp tool is quite good for that. Other than that, there are other tools, but we'll probably cover them in a future tutorial anyway. But if you have any questions, please let me know through my email. Okay, I'll see you next time.